Hello, parents out there in Naked Parent Nation. This is the Naked Parent Podcast. My name's Chad Ratliff. I'm your host. I'm a single father with 5 kids within 6 years of age and 2 with special needs. So I get it. Your time is valuable, and it's valuable to me as well. I bring guests on the show that add a lot to the lives of not only myself, but other parents raising special needs children. And today I'm super excited for you to meet Cricket Barrientos, who has an amazing story that I'm excited to learn more about. She's been a mother of 19 years of an autistic child. She's a retired restaurateur of 30 years and a wife of a police officer of 14 years. And we're going to get to hear about her personal experience and professional experience and how that has birthed a foundation that sounds very, very exciting called Sounds of Autism, which was established in 2011. And there's so much more for you to get to know. But welcome to the show, Cricket. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're excited to share what we're doing with your audience.
That's awesome.
Get to hear a little more about you too.
Did I get that right, that you're a mother of 19 years of an autistic child?
Yeah. And I think it's cute how you say child, because I do too, but my child's 6 foot, 220 pounds. You could see him in the background. He's eating his cereal. Yeah, Landon. But yes, for 19, almost 20 years, I can't believe he's going to be 20 years old. It's unbelievable.
And when did you know that your journey was going to be on maybe a different track than you originally had anticipated?
For me, I grew up with 3 girls, and we always heard the stories when you get pregnant, they'll say, oh, boys are just delayed, so I'm thinking, well, he's just delayed, he's a boy, right? And I just went with that for a while. But when I finally put him and my daughter into daycare, I became a single mom overnight, so I had to put him in daycare. It wasn't an option. And I realized that, that these teachers were telling me something. And I finally had one of them pull me to the side, and she was like, I don't want you to be sad. And she's like saying all this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my kids did something really bad. And then she says, I think your son may have a developmental delay. And she didn't use the word autism, because back then they didn't really say autism. They just said a developmental delay or a food disorder, because he was, spitting out food. And she's like, and I think we need to get him into school and get him some help and maybe have him go see a doctor. I'd like to have him assessed. And I was like, for me, I knew something was different. So I was like, all right, to be honest, it's relieving that you say that, because I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm just a bad mom, or maybe I'm not able to, raise boys because I raised girls, or I was around girls. And so maybe, I kept making all these excuses as to why, and realizing later, that this is the starting stages of our journey.
And how old was he at that point?
Landon was about 2.5. So, he was over 2, but I saw the signs looking back, and knowing what they are now. I saw the signs at about 18 months.
Got it. And so what was next? Did you went to the doctor? I mean, tell us a little bit about the process of going from that conversation to further along.
I think for us, we went to this assessment for the school district, because if you get them assessed, then, the school will offer you at 3 years old, they'll offer you the ability to get him services right away. That's what your taxes pay for this stuff, right? So, but he had to have an assessment. Well, when you go into an assessment and you're sitting with your ex whatever, and you don't agree already on everything in life right now, and it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. And then, they're asking you a million questions. And I always said, it's 5 head doctors sitting in this room with you, and your child's over here playing, and you and your significant other, who you're not getting along with at that time anyway, is answering questions. They're saying, well, does Landon know where his nose is? And I'm like, oh yeah, he knows where his nose is. And my ex-husband, he's like, he has no idea where his nose is. And, we're just not on the same page on anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and realizing that Landon didn't know where any of those things were. He was in his own world. I was in my own world, obviously. And I thought, well, he's just going through a divorce, But then when I talked to the psychologist, they're like, well, he probably doesn't even understand that you're going through that right now. And so there was just a lot going on at that time in my life. So I just made a lot of excuses, and I didn't want to, not that I didn't want to accept it, because believe me, when they told me, I felt better, like, okay, now we know what the problem is. And I'm a troubleshooter. So I'm like, we know what the problem is. We can work on this. But I know every parent goes through something, and our stories are funny now, but 19 years ago, it was probably one of the most difficult times because of everything I was going through in life. And I wasn't prepared.
Right. And I'm so thankful that you shared that story, because I actually got the chills when you told that story. And it's not usually the kind of chills that I'm used to, but it's just because I've had that conversation. I've been in that situation, and it is a lonely, scary feeling. And unless you've been through that situation, I mean, you can't explain that to somebody else who hasn't been in that situation. And so you really are with yourself, and maybe a faith if you have one, or whatever it is. But
Yes.
Even if I've had a faith, I forget about it at those moments. So I feel you, and I appreciate you bringing that to light. So share with us kind of some of the challenges that Landon and you both faced kind of in the early going, so that our listeners can hear sort of what that was for you.
So as I said, I was a single mom. So what happened, it was right around, a couple years after 9/11, and I was married to a man that was here on a visa. It was a permanent visa, not a visa. I'm sorry. It was a permanent residency card. And we were working on getting his status here. But after 9/11, they weren't letting anybody stay. So overnight, they deported him. And I became a single mom, and I worked in the restaurant industry, and I was running multiple restaurants. So I was 16, 18-hour days. And he did a lot of the caring for the kids because of my job. And then he would work at night, like third shift, cleaning carpets and things like that. So we always had like a good system, and we never needed daycare or anything like that. So life for me changed like for everything, personally, professionally, everything. And then, Landon got into these schools. At the time we were in Chicago. Now we're in Arizona, but we were in Chicago, and they had some great teachers and some great programs. But Landon went from, I felt that, for the first 18 months, he was in like regular development. The milestones were happening. Everything was fine. And then right after 18 months, all of a sudden he stopped grabbing my ears, sucking on my face, like all those things that these kids do at that age. And he just went like, I always refer to it as like deaf mute. Like he just wasn't there, and everything just went away. And it was almost like a brain injury. That's the best way to do it. I had somebody I grew up with in high school had a brain injury in a car accident, and he had the same thing. So it was really hard. And then I was like, okay, well, my ex-husband left, and my mom and dad had just retired and moved to Arizona to help my sister, who just went through a divorce. So I was like, okay, I'm moving to Arizona because my family's all there. And after 16 years, all three girls came back together again, all of us going through divorces, which was crazy. So we get there, and my sisters are teachers. And so I'm like, Landon's, he has IDD, or he has something going on. And, they were just like, well, you're too hard on him, and your boundaries, you don't even let him do anything. And I said, I have to do this. Like it tries escaping out of the house. They call that elopement. He's tried leaving, and I go, and these kids drown. They end up in pools, and I don't know why, but water calms them. Like there's just a sensory thing. And I go, so I have to make sure that I keep him like in this box. Now he will earn to get out of that box, but I have to know that he's capable. And so my family and I fought probably for 2 years before they really truly accepted that Landon needed help. And, my mom was mad because I wouldn't get Landon, I wouldn't take him to get pictures taken of every year. And you know how you have that.
Yeah.
Nothing. After 18 months, I didn't do it because he was overwhelmed with the flash and in the pictures. My family just didn't understand, and I was frustrated because we have cousins and people in our world, and my ex-husband did as well, and they were never diagnosed, and they were always kind of the last person included. So I was like, I told my family, I'm like, I'm not going to let my son go through that. Like I'm just not. So I really embraced it. But I had a determined mentality of, this is the way we're doing it. And if they want to be a part of it, great. If they don't, I'm sorry, but he's the most important thing, including my daughter. They're the most important things right now in my life. And I just have to worry about that.
Wow.
And that was it, and they came around. But, I meet a lot of families, and on my journey here, they went through the same thing, and they're really sad about it. And I tell them, listen, we got to get you strong, because your child needs you more now than they did before you knew. And you're going to have to be around a really long time until we get you set up to be able to pass away and feel good about it.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you have any feeling of what happened at 18 months?
I do. Even more now after COVID. But you know what? As a nonprofit, we're not allowed to talk about it, which is fine. But every presentation I've done thousands of presentations with people. And every presentation, there's two things that happen every time. The first one is people will ask, what causes it? And what do you think causes it? And they always say the V word. And me personally, yeah, I do. And the second is, how do we go on this journey and leave this earth, feeling like we can. With COVID and everything that just happened, our society hasn't seen what's going to be the repercussions of that yet, I believe. And I think that they're cutting everything, every program, they're cutting everything. And our kids will be back to the last on the list. I refuse to allow that. And so the programs that I've created, we have 16 programs from prenatal till the end of life. Those programs are to take the kids to the highest level of their abilities, so that they never have to rely on our society to accept that. They'll be fine. And if they just go through this and we empower these families and these kids, we don't need anybody else. We can do this, but you have to believe that, and that's what we're working on.
I love it. So this soundsofautism.org started in 2011. You said there's 16 programs within this organization. Tell us why 2011, how has it unfolded from then until now, and tell us more about it.
So 2011, a man walked into my life. His name was Carlos Galindo. He was an advocate for the Hispanic community. And he, in Arizona, just stood up to people that were being deported and just trying to fight for their rights. Like, listen, we were all immigrants at one point, or we came here, our families came here as immigrants at one point. We need to be a better culture to serve these populations, help them find the best way to do this, right? So he came into my restaurant one night when I was working, and and I walked up to him for many reasons, and he shared with me who he was, and I told him what I did, and my husband leaving and being a single mom overnight. And I said, I met you, so many years later. You should have been in my life many years ago. You could have helped save us. Anyway, he was so grateful, and he said, Cricket, have you ever thought about starting a nonprofit for autism? I'm like, never. I never thought of that, and I just kind of went on to the next conversation, and he brought me right back to that circle. And he's like, we need a voice. We need somebody that can speak on the behalf of these kids. They don't have a voice. They need help. And he's like, and the populations are continuing to grow, and the resources and support solutions are god awful, and we need help. He was very involved in the political side of things. So I said, maybe I'll just try. So I started a Facebook page. I didn't even know how to do Facebook. I added all my friends to it, and everybody stayed. And I was like, wow, all these friends of mine have something to do with autism. Like, it just blew my mind, not realizing that people were just willing to hear the stories and stay and learn. And when I see these people on the streets, they're like, oh my gosh, I follow you and I listen to everything you're saying. And I'm like, you do? My husband tells me I talk too much, So anyways, it was exciting to me, because I realized that, the power of influence can be your voice. You can get people to follow you, even if they have no empathy or compassion for something. You can change that if you just, you're kind to people and you show them the reasons why. And so, today I think our videos go out to like over millions of people, right? All over the world. And we've helped people all the way in Pakistan and, just everywhere. And it was all social media driven. And now I know social media is kind of different now today, but I don't use it for the, pushing my agenda. I still tell my stories and I still do it. And I still have a lot of families that follow me. But I think our social media now adds up to over 10,000, followers. But we're all over the world and we're supporting Canada right now as well with our program. So they're copying what we're doing. They're just a year behind. But that said, I did it for 10 years, 11 years, and I self-funded it. I never asked for money, very little. I mean, we did really bad fundraisers, and I just focused on listening and learning and watching my son grow and listening to what the families were frustrated about and realizing that, the majority of the frustration wasn't the family or the child. It was society and just things that weren't happening. Bad teachers that didn't care, teachers that didn't listen, administrators that didn't listen. A lot going back to leadership. In the restaurant industry, my job was to promote leaders and train them and teach them. And I was, I'm not bragging, but I was good at it. I was able to sustain. I mean, I worked in a restaurant concept that went from 84 restaurants to 950 national, international. I was there for 17 years.
Wow.
And my boss was hands off. He let me do what I needed to do. And I promoted, and many of those people that work for me in the restaurant industry are now running very large organizations or restaurants. And they're very successful because we learned to do it. And we learned to do it in a way where you didn't have to use a title to get the result. You learned to create a team that was rallied around you. So I built my organization in the same business model as a franchise restaurant. And I have people in society that are my employees, and we're just building a team that's very similar to a restaurant model. But when I do it, it's to empower everybody. And when you allow people to be empowered and you allow people to add their voice to something, and they have some type of investment in what you're doing, it's easy. People aren't going to walk away ever. Even if they say, hey, I need a break from volunteering or whatever, but I'll be back. And they're always back. And they're always coming back with other people. And people see what we're doing. Listen, we're still struggling with things that we've been struggling with for 19 years. And in my restaurant world, if you provide results that are failing every single year, it only takes a restaurant concept about a year and a half and they'll fire you. You'll be gone. So we can't fire the leaders because we need them. So we have to make them better. And so what I'm doing is I am really a marketing campaign. I have 16 programs to seek out families and offer support solutions. But my support solutions are people within my community, people that have expert advice on planning funerals for your child before you leave, setting them up money management wise. We work with all the colleges in the state of Arizona, the big ones, NAU, USA, ASU, U of A, GCU. I mean, all of them. We work with those students at the social behavioral level, the dual certification educational teachers and people going into criminology and anybody that will have an influence with this population. And we say at risk, especially autism, and we educate them at the prenatal stage. This is the next generation of leaders, the next generation of parents, and they're not influenced yet by leaders or political agendas or anything that's going on in this world, right? And so when they come work for us, we empower them and we tell them, you have to bring your voice to your next step, your leadership roles. And even if your leaders don't comply, there will be a day where you'll be in charge. And when that day happens, we're going to be here and we're going to help support you. But these kids need jobs. They need living spaces. Our populations are ending up homeless or being dropped off by parents that abandon their child and pull away because they don't have answers and they can't mentally or emotionally embrace what's happening to their child. And they're doing these horrible things. And it's not, I think, because they want to. I don't think anybody's there to guide them. And that's what we are. We created a roadmap and we navigate the system with them. We get them ready for the next milestone. We pre-plan, we proactively resolve everything. And we're going now to our mayors, city council, police departments, educational leaders, and saying, listen, we want your help. And if they say no, that's okay. We're going to have events at the end of the year and everybody's going to show up, and you're the only school districts that's not going to be there. That doesn't look good. And leaders have egos. They love their ego, right? So they're going to come and say, well, we better get on board, even if we don't agree, because they're going to put us out there. And it's really a checkmate mentality, but honestly, it's what we need to win. And we don't have to go out there and protest and burn down buildings to get our resolution.
I love it. I love it. So is there like, if I'm a parent with a newly diagnosed child, is there a reason for me to contact your organization, or do I need to be at a certain stage? Or how do I know if I'm a parent listening right now, how do I know if you have support for what I'm going through?
So there's a couple of things. The first one is, if you go to our website, you'll find everything. And that's www.soundsofautism.org. So sounds with an S of autism, AUTISM.org. When you go on there, you will navigate through, you'll see newscasts, you'll see everything's digital. You'll see virtual boxes of early intervention, prenatal. It'll have how to plan a funeral, all those things. And all of those boxes, when you click on them, go right to our YouTube digital library, where we have podcasts from all over the world, people that are on there talking about the different resources and things like that. We also have digital tools. So if you say, I'm at the, when you fill out the information on the website, it'll ask you, so what is your need that you put in there? I just found out my son has autism. I don't know what to do. We will send you a short PowerPoint guide that will give you all the steps that you need to take as a parent, but it also share my story, the things that I didn't know. I created this entire 16 program organization on all the mistakes that I made, and said, this is what I don't want other parents to go through. And so we send it to them, and then we tell them, you're not alone, and we're here to guide you. And even if you use this and it works for you and you feel good, there may be a day you have to come back. So stay in contact, get on our social media pages, watch, because I'm constantly posting the new and greatest and latest stuff. And, and we're really educating educators and community leaders and responders, because we know that we need their support as we're raising our children. And with them, they don't always know, and we assume they know, and they don't. And even educators and police officers, like, they get trained on crisis intervention, but they don't really know what that means until you get in front of it. So a lot of our programs are putting people in front of the population to empower them to be able to embrace them and understand them and understand each other. So
exciting. Is there room for people that want to get involved and help out?
Absolutely. We're in Arizona, but we're going to go nationwide, and for us, international even. And the way we're going to do that is we will chapter what we're doing. So we want people in other states to reach out to us if they have interest in leading something like this. And we would put them through a year process before we would turn it over to them. And we would support them as we're doing it. And then we would, just kind of be there to mentor them through the process and help them fundraise and all that kind of stuff, so that this could be a full-time job for them. But everything's done virtual, so it'll be really easy. And you get to mentor and work with the next generation of leaders and parents, which is our college program. And we teach you everything. And if you can't do it all, we'll find other people to surround you with. But we will be in Arizona. This is our hub, and this is our kind of our corporate hub, I call it. And everything will be done in Arizona as far as development goes. But then we will basically duplicate everything we're doing out in the community. And we want it to be ran by other parents that can't work and they need an income, or people that are on the autism spectrum. Everybody in Canada is adults with autism, and they're doing phenomenal. They're doing a phenomenal job. But, we have opted as an organization not to go after the disability and why people should support that. We go after the abilities of this population, and we bring those out and we help parents bring those out so that we can show the value of this child's life and what they're capable of and what people are missing by not allowing these kids to show their abilities. And a lot of times people will turn their back because they're uncomfortable and they're not confident. We empower people to be more confident in working with this this population. So
That's so exciting. I'm fired up.
I'm
You have
fired
any-
up.
yeah. So how about through through the trials and tribulations and experiences that you've had, what's your secret to your success? How do you care for yourself? How have you overcome some of the hurdles that you faced and to this point where you're so electric and you exude with such passion and power? Has it always been that way for you, or?
You know, I'm I grew up Catholic and I'm very religious internally, but I don't push that agenda on anybody. If somebody doesn't want that, I just tell them you have to have something. You always have to have a hope, and hope, for me came through my religion, but for some they go whatever they do. But we just tell them you have to have something to be able to go and kind of reflect with, so that when you're having those bad days or those moments, and so for me, I had this wart on my face, and my mom had it removed when I was 3 years old, and it has a little hole right here in my face. And I asked my mom when I was little what that was from, and right next to this little hole in my face, I have this little X. And my mom goes, well, the hole is from this wart that you had. I didn't want it on your face because I loved your face and I didn't want it to be there, so I had it removed. And I said, oh, I remember that. And she goes, no, you don't. You were only like 3 years old. And I go, no, Mom, I remember they put this thing in my hand, and it looked like that thing that Dad scrapes paint with. And then I said, and when I opened my eyes, there were angels standing around me when I was being put to sleep. And I knew that they were putting something in my body so that I could be an angel the rest of my life. Like I told her the story. And so I said, so I have to do good, Mom. And then I had this X, and she goes, well, that's when you were riding your tricycle at 3 years old, because you were this crazy person and you always took risk, and you went down this hill in our driveway and you flipped over it and your tooth went right through. So she had to rush me to the hospital. And I said, so these are like my war wounds, but they're really reminders of what I'm like. I should never be fearful of things, or things that are put in front of me, and still be that person I was at 3 years old. And the other is, remember that you're surrounded by people that want you to do good things. So my organization started in 2011 because I found seeds, a sesame seed that grew into a larger seed, and it kept growing into more and more, and then it stopped, and then it was money, and I started finding money and all of that. And I'm very symbolic. My symbolism and my beliefs, they're all very religious. And somebody came to me once and they said, you're like John the Baptist, you're a sheep herder and you protect the sheep from the wolves. And and I took those things serious. And I don't think that I'm special. I don't think that I think I'm a host of somebody that needs a job done, and I'm just here delivering the message. And that's what I really believe in. And I never fear somebody starting with me and leaving me. I never fear change. I don't fear those things. The COVID is scary to many people. They don't know what the next step is because we can't control it. And I always tell them, if I didn't have COVID happen, I would have never been able to complete this vision. And now that I have it, I was able to, resign from my 30-year career to do this full time now. And we just found out we have a funding source, so we will grow quick. But again, it's to support everybody. I mean, you said I think you said five children, right? Your life is not easy. It'll never be easy, but you've learned to adapt, and your strength will always be a part of what you do. And that's why you have no problem getting in front of people and sharing this. Our families need to realize you're the strongest people in this world. That's the honest God truth, emotionally and physically and mentally, because this child has all kinds of different needs, and they all are mental, physical, and emotional, all of them.
That's amazing. I'm inspired. For some reason, you made me think of a story. I was walking along the beach with my kids one day, and I had my shirt off, and on my back in big block letters, SOLO down my spine, solo. And there were some old people on one of these tourist kind of bikes with like 8 people deep, and they just had these big smiles, and they ride by and they say, and I have all my kids holding their hands, and he says, "Doesn't look so solo to me." And he's like, "What's that mean anyway?" And I turned around and it just came out of me, and I said, "Spiritual bankruptcy." And it was, when I got the tattoo, it was different than what it reminds me of now, and some of the things that you shared that are your stories and memories, and it made me think of that. And you've inspired me in this conversation. If I'm excited for people to check out your website and check out your organization, I'm excited to learn more about it myself. Um, for those parents out there that are out there struggling, they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're not sure that they have what it takes to do the job. Do you have any thoughts for them, kind of in closing?
Yep. I would suggest take a look at yourself first, because it's very possible, very probable that you too may be struggling from autism yourself, and you never knew. Now you know, and maybe you needed the help before you can help your own child. And that's what I teach our community, our educators, and our leaders, and police officers. Is a lot of times the parents are undiagnosed and underserved. So take a look at yourself. Put the mask on yourself. Maybe you're trying to take on the world. You can't do that if you're doing it alone. So we're here for empowerment. We're here to help you get to that level. And then once you do, you will learn the best way for you to keep going is take your knowledge that we've given you and share it with others, and keep doing that, and keep supporting. If we work together, we will overcome this, as far as the sadness that and the emotional side that comes along with it. So we're here. You're never alone. Like I said, our organization, we reach out within 24 to 48 hours, especially if you're in crisis. And then we stay with you until you tell us you don't need us anymore. So that's who we are.
That's great, Cricket. I really appreciate you taking the time today. I'm so grateful I met you. I hope we can stay in contact as we stroll this road of happy destiny together, and we'll be cheering for you and with you in Santa Barbara, California, and around the country.
Thank you. We're hoping California is our third state, so we'll be there sooner than later.
All right. Sounds good. You have a great day, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.